Hello everybody and welcome back. As always, I am Mateo311 and this is your channel for everything VR related. Today, we are going over the best VR games by genre as of June 2022. Now this video will include options for PCVR, PlayStation VR, and the Quest 2. I'm also throwing in future titles to look out for, and this year I'm also including some mods too. Now I'm sure to miss a category or one of your favorite games along the way, so please let me know what it is down in the comments. Now this is going to be a long one, so there are of course links and timestamps down in the description. But before we jump in, this video was brought to you by Kiwi Design, my favorite website for VR accessories. If you're rocking a stock Quest 2, I highly recommend you update to their Elite strap. It's much more comfortable, supportive, and won't suddenly snap on you. If you're a PC gamer, they have an excellent pulley system. If you work out in VR, they sell some controller weights. And there's a variety of other accessories from cosmetic changes to simple stands. There's a link in the description if you want to check them out. And don't forget to use discount code Mateo311 for 5% off and to help support this channel. Okay, so let's start this video off with the story-driven single-player experiences. And taking the top spot is easily Lone Echo 1 and 2. Jump into a stunningly beautiful world that has you floating out in the vastness of space. Your routine maintenance of a space station orbiting Saturn suddenly goes sideways with the appearance of a mysterious anomaly. The story only gets crazier from there, and this is easily one of my favorite VR games to date. Making things even better, the story continues with Lone Echo 2, which is a significant improvement in every single way. The overall storyline is intriguing, compelling, and at times surprisingly moving. It's a must-play for any PCVR gamer, but if it's lacking action for you, I recommend Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. This is another title featuring a surprisingly compelling, intriguing, and overall emotional storyline. It's separated by puzzles and combat, making it much more ideal for those who are looking for some action. But if you want your story-driven experience to focus on puzzles, then we have the time-traveling journey, Wanderer. Jump through time, quantum leap style, and take on the role of astronaut, rock star, and even World War II codebreaker. It's a truly intricate sci-fi storyline that I recommend to anyone who enjoys puzzle titles. As excellent as this title is, it's still not my favorite story-driven experience for the PlayStation VR, as that title goes to Farpoint. Once again, we are in space, dealing with anomalies and time travel. But the story that Farpoint tells is truly unique, extremely compelling, and I just couldn't stop and play through this entire title in one shot. Now, another excellent story-driven title that's available on all VR platforms is The Walking Dead: Saints and Sinners. Now, The Walking Dead: Saints and Sinners is a title that will show up in multiple genres in today's video. It's never truly the clear winner of any genre, but it excels in so many ways, and is basically in a league of its own. Saints and Sinners features an excellent storyline that has you trying to survive a dystopian zombie-filled future. Add in some impactful choices, excellent combat, and a scavenging system, and you end up with an all-around phenomenal title. But my number one story-driven title for the Quest is Vader Immortal. Now, it is available on all major platforms, but unlike PlayStation VR and PC VR, there's not much competition on the Quest. That doesn't mean it's not an excellent game though. Meeting Darth Vader in VR is almost like a once-in-a-lifetime experience. The Star Wars universe looks absolutely beautiful, and the production value is extremely high. You'll also get to mow down stormtroopers, gain some force abilities, and find out a bit more what Vader was up to in between the movies. Overall, I absolutely love this title, and I hope we get a sequel in the future. Now, if you've exhausted your supply of story-driven experiences and want to look into some mods, I highly recommend Frewatch and Outer Wilds. Both mods are excellently done, and you'll get two truly unique experiences. Frewatch is this laid-back, chill storyline that occasionally gets spooky, but it's a bit like sitting back and reading a good book. Outer Wilds has you on this sci-fi journey to solve the mystery of a solar system trapped in a time loop, and these are just two excellent story-driven mods that I highly recommend. Now let's go ahead and move into single-player shooters, and this one's probably a no-brainer, but Half-Life Alyx is at the top of the list for PCVR. It is the highest production value you will find in any VR title. It's absolutely stunning, and it's from a beloved franchise. Add in great combat and an interesting storyline, and you have yourself a winning title. Now, one of my personal favorite PCVR shooters is Robo-Recall, but it's also available on the Quest, and it has a much different feel than Half-Life Alyx. It's arcadey and quirky and centered around replayability. You basically get extra points for killing enemies with style, and there's just enough storyline and cool moments to keep this title fresh and exciting. As good as this title is though, Resident Evil 4 is clearly the best single-player shooter available for the Quest 2. This is an excellent VR port of an already amazing title. Resident Evil fans and newcomers alike will absolutely love this game. It features a lengthy campaign, excellent cutscenes and VR mechanics, and lots of replayability with the recently added DLC Mercenaries. Now for the PlayStation VR, we are returning to Farpoint. It's an excellent shooter that delivers in every way possible. Great graphics, compelling storyline, and even co-op. Now for the PlayStation, I also have to put Blood and Truth on this list, completely from the recommendation of my viewers, because I'm still yet to play this title. I constantly hear how good it is from basically everyone, and I'm truly hoping it will be available for the PlayStation VR 2, so I'm holding out right now for that, and maybe one day we'll even get a sequel. Now on the mod list, we have Half-Life 1 and Half-Life 2. Half-Life 1 can be played on the Oculus Quest and PCVR, but Half-Life 2 is only available for PCVR. These games are absolutely fantastic when played in VR, and they are classic titles that every gamer should try. Stacking the Half-Life 1 or Half-Life 2 mod up against many native VR games, and it blows them out of the water. Now an honorable mention and a title you want to be on the lookout for comes from the Vertigo series, as Vertigo Remastered is absolutely excellent, and Vertigo 2, which is coming soon, looks to be phenomenal. Now I also have to mention to be on the lookout for bonelabs, which looks to be another phenomenal upcoming title that should be releasing in less than 6 months. But let's move into co-op shooters, and first on the list is After the Fall, which is available on all platforms. After the Fall is very similar to Left 4 Dead, just in VR, and it will have you and up to 3 of your friends mowing down hordes of zombies. The game will have you keep coming back for more due to its huge list of unlockable weapons and upgrades. And if you get bored of that, you can also jump into some PvP. Now a great shooter alternative available on PCVR and Quest is Contractors. So if you're looking for something more Call of Duty themed, this is an excellent option, and the replayability is there with plenty of unlockable content. Now for PlayStation VR exclusive titles, we once again have Farpoint. I'm making it sound like it's the only game on PlayStation VR, but it's just such a great title, and the fact that you can experience it with a friend makes it that much better. Now if you need to reach into mods for more co-op titles, I highly recommend Deep Rock Galactic. Take on the role of one of 4 dwarven classes, start digging deep down into the earth, and collect resources. It's an addictive formula with tons of replayability, because you'll be leveling up your characters, and there's just so much content to unlock. Now, if you're just waiting for a new co-op title to play, well, good news, because Ghostbusters VR is coming. This 4-person co-op title has been confirmed for the Quest 2 and the PlayStation VR 2, and while there's not a lot of information available just yet, it looks to be a fantastic ghost-busting time. Now, if you're not into co-op and rather shoot up your friends, there are multiple different PvP titles available, and it really comes down to what style of game you want to play. Now, if you enjoy something military style but not too realistic, we have Pavlov, which is basically VR's Counter-Strike. Onward is for the military sim fan, featuring some truly unforgiving gameplay and mechanics. Hyperdash is for the arena shooter fans, those who liked really fast gunplay and grew up on titles like Unreal Tournament or Quake. And if you're a bit new school and prefer Battle Royale titles, there's the Undisputed King Population 1. They're constantly popping out new weapons, skins, and map areas, keeping this game fresh and exciting. Now, if you're on the PlayStation VR, we also have Alvo, which is very close to Call of Duty. It's definitely not the most realistic shooter out there, but it definitely has that Call of Duty feel that many players love. Now, a PlayStation alternative would be Firewall Zero Hour, but due to its age, the player base is basically washed up. But if shooters aren't your style and you prefer single-player RPGs, you definitely have to jump into Asgard's Wrath, with some of the best graphics that VR has to offer, multiple different unlockable characters to play, 40-hour campaign, and a fantastic usage of VR, both mechanically and in the storytelling. It's a must-play title to any RPG fan. Now, most people would say the same about Skyrim VR, as this addictive title is like an infection that spreads from platform to platform. If you really want to get sucked into an RPG for hundreds of hours, this is the title for you, and that's before you even start modding it. Now, I do highly recommend you throw on some mods, because vanilla Skyrim is not a great port, and unless you've never played it before, it's going to be more of the same and VR won't add too much. Now, a very cute, much smaller in scale RPG that I recommend is Journey of the Gods. It again has a great usage of VR mechanics, features a really cool story and boss fights, and just truly sucks you into the world. Just don't expect as much depth as Asgard's Wrath or Skyrim, but it's a really fun title nonetheless. Now, in terms of RPGs to be on the lookout for, I'm following the title Everslot, which currently plays like a roguelite, but the developer is aiming to turn it into something like Diablo. The current early access state is phenomenal, it's just lacking content and doesn't have many RPG components, but it shows so much promise, and I can't wait to see what this title looks like a year from now. Now, if you prefer to play your RPGs with friends, you have to try Legendary Tales. Legendary Tales is the foundation of my ideal RPG game. It features fantastic physics-based combat that rewards you and helps level up your character based on how you like to play. Throw around spells and your character will get better at magic. Go around smashing things with heavy weapons, and you'll find yourself getting stronger and stronger. And even something as simple as constantly getting killed will help make your character more tanky. In between all that leveling, there's a ton of perks you can select to truly customize your character the way you want. I can go on and on about this game because it knocked my previous favorite co-op RPG title, Carnage Chronicles, right off the list. Don't get me wrong, it's still a great game, and in some ways offers a lot more than Legendary Tales, but the combat system just doesn't match it. Now, if you're a tabletop RPG fan, you gotta play Demeo. They are constantly updating this game, and Adventure number 4 just released, which is easily the best update yet. Now, some people like to call this Dungeons & Dragons in VR, which is not the case. It's a much more simplistic tabletop game, similar to Hero Quest or Gloomhaven, but it's still fantastic nonetheless. And they've added a social room where you can hang out with your friends and even paint some miniatures. It's basically a tabletop dream come true. Now, if the tabletop isn't enough for you and you want to actually dive into the world, we have MMOs. Zenith is currently the undisputed VR MMO champion, and there is a ton of content for you to check out. While personally this game wasn't for me, many MMO fans are enjoying their time, and they just released a huge update. So if you wanted to fly around a huge open world and pack as many players on screen as possible, this is the game for you. Now, a lighter MMO title that I enjoyed a bit more is a Township Tale. While you can't interact with a huge player count, it does retain a lot of MMO elements, and this title is much more focused on resource gathering and crafting items. It's free for PCVR if you want to check it out, and for Quest gamers, it's only $9.99. Now, I'm currently keeping an eye on the upcoming MMO Elysia, as it just looks to be much more my style of an MMO, and I have tried out a few demos, which I definitely enjoyed more than Zenith, but we're gonna have to wait and see what happens. But MMOs are too complex for some players, and let's move into the most simplistic genre, the wave shooter. We have a brand new addition to this category that just took the #1 spot, and that is Mother Gunship Forge. It's more than just your typical wave shooter, adding both roguelite elements and fantastic gun building mechanics. On top of that, there's a 1v1 competitive PvP mode and over 100 different weapon parts to unlock. Now, previously my favorite wave shooter was Space Pirate Trainer, which is still a great option on all platforms. It has an excellent soundtrack, a surprising amount of strategy, a large array of weapons, and you can pull out a shield or electric whip from your back, which is just a really cool mechanic. And speaking of cool mechanics, we have Super Hot, which is a world that only moves when you move. Nothing else plays quite like Super Hot, and it almost ends up feeling like a puzzle game due to limited ammo and enemies randomly spawning in a specific pattern that will kill you with a single hit. And another excellent unique wave shooter is Swarm. Swarm has you swinging around like Spider-Man with guns. It features a cool little storyline, can be extremely challenging, and mechanics that are easy to learn but hard to master. The wave shooter category is overloaded for VR, but all of these titles truly stand out. Now, a genre that's underrepresented in VR is the platformer, but we do have some amazing options. First up is Moss, available on all major platforms, and it's a combination of puzzles, platforming, and just falling in love with the amazing mouse protagonist Quill. It also helps that this game is stunningly beautiful, and PlayStation VR owners currently have access to Book 2, which will also be coming to Quest in the near future. PlayStation VR owners also have access to the hands-down #1 best platformer, and that's Astrobot Rescue Mission. The developers truly know how to highlight VR, playing around with scale, throwing objects at your face, and just making every level unique and exciting. Now, honorable mentions for platformers include both Carly and the Reaper Man and Lucky's Tale. Carly and the Reaper Man has a very cool co-op element to it, where one player is able to see something that the other cannot, and they have to work each other through it. And Lucky's Tale is a competent platformer, just not as good as Astrobot or Moss. Now, if platformers are too small scale for you, in the open world category, we have No Man's Sky. This multi-planet venturing, resource gathering, and crafting title has over time become an amazing experience. There's so much to do, and it's easily one of the biggest VR games out there. And unfortunately, there's nothing quite like this available on the Quest, but if you do like big open worlds and exploring, even though Zenith is technically an MMO, it's definitely a cool option for Quest gamers. Now, if you want to mod your way into open world glorious freedom, you have to check out Valheim. This overwhelmingly popular survival and crafting title is fully playable in VR, including full motion controller support, and it delivers an amazing new perspective. Now, if you don't need a big open world, but you do want to run around just having a good time, VR has some great sandbox titles, starting with Boneworks. Whenever I'm introducing someone to VR, and they've gone through the basics and they're looking for something more aggressive, I always throw them into Boneworks and let them just fool around with the physics and weapons. It's an excellent experience, easily up there with our next title, Blade and Sorcery. Now, we will also find this game in the Arena Fighter category, but many people prefer to just jump into Blade and Sorcery and fool around. The Nomad version is now available on Quest, and while it doesn't have the same mod support, it's still a great time. For PlayStation VR, we have Dreams. which is an absolutely huge collection of user-generated content. There's everything from Halo remakes to trippy environments, and you could spend hours just looking through cool stuff. And for the creative among us, you could spend just as much time building your own world. Now, if you're on Quest and want something similar to Boneworks, until BoneLab officially releases, your next best option is Sport Mode. It's an attempted Boneworks clone that does an adequate job at a much cheaper price tag. There's some well-done physics, an arena mode, Sandbox, and even some unique modifiers to change up the action. Now, if you're not looking for some action and just want to dance, there's plenty of different rhythm titles to choose from. Beat Saber is available on all major platforms and still remains the king of rhythm games. Slicing boxes never seems to get old, especially since Beat Games continually releases new songs, stages, and modifiers. Now, if you want to change up that formula, Pistol Whip is an amazing alternative. You get to roam around feeling like John Wick in a neon-colored world. They've added story content that takes you to a sci-fi future or the Wild West, and their latest update has introduced daily, weekly, and monthly contracts. But if you prefer a title that naturally makes you groove a bit more, we have Synth Riders. Synth Riders also constantly pops out new music packs, and they also feature some amazing immersive experience levels, which I just can't get enough of. And a newcomer that's currently in early access but coming along nicely is Against. It's like a combination of Beat Saber and Pistol Whip in a creepy fantasy world with a cool storyline to take in. So rather than just slicing some boxes and shooting enemies and dodging bullets, you're going to be doing all of the above, plus some parkour, crazy jumps, and battle some crazy bosses along the way. Now, relaxing things by moving back into puzzle titles, we have both Moss and I Expect You to Die available on all major platforms. Moss is already mentioned on today's list and features more than just puzzles, with an excellent storyline, graphics, and platforming mechanics. I Expect You to Die is basically a spy-themed quirky escape room, but no game since has made repeatedly dying so much fun. That is, of course, until I Expect You to Die 2 released, and that game is even better than the original. Now, there are plenty of other great honorable mentions here like Gadgeteer, Red Matter, and The Room VR, but it just comes down to your style and what exactly you're looking for. Now, something a lot of people aren't looking for is horror titles, but VR has plenty of them. Now, top of that list, available for all platforms, is The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners. And last year, I actually kept it out of this category because it doesn't feel like a straight horror game, but I've reconsidered and it's definitely spooky enough to make it here. So brutal combat, a great storyline, and a super spooky atmosphere put it at the top of the list. Now, even creepier for the PlayStation VR is Resident Evil 7. If you ever wanted to experience what it's like to get trapped in a house with a family of psychotic individuals, well, here's your opportunity. This is the early days of PlayStation VR titles, where Sony really liked to get up in your face and show off VR technology. It's incredible, but not for the squeamish. And on the same note is Phasmophobia. This 4-person co-op ghost hunting title is super creepy, but at least you get to share that experience with your friends. I've had so much fun playing this game in VR and found it to be equal parts laughter and screaming. It really makes you feel like you're in an episode of Ghost Hunters or filming something like The Blair Witch. Now, if you want your horror titles to be more story-driven, we have Lies Beneath. It's an excellent combination of gory comic book style art, immersive environments, and creepy sound effects. Now, some of the tension is cut by the fact that you will be murdering a lot of these creatures along the way, but anytime you run into a larger enemy, you're gonna pee your pants a bit. Now, an honorable mention for the Quest is Jurassic World Aftermath, because playing cat and mouse with the Velociraptor is always scary. But if you like that style of gameplay and want to crank the graphics and horror up to 11, you have to check out the Alien Isolation Mother mod. It's basically the best VR horror experience you can get, unless you want to check out the mods for Resident Evil 2, 3, 7, and 8. And of course, on our titles to look out for list, we have the Saints and Sinners Chapter 2 coming sometime later this year. Even if it's just more of the same, this is going to be an excellent title, but it looks like they're amping things up a bit, and they're giving us a chainsaw, so I can't complain. Now, if you've survived your way through horror titles, you've made it to the survival genre. A new title on the list for 2022 is Green Hell. Green Hell features a 15+ hour campaign, fantastic graphics, and drops you off in the middle of the Amazon, where you'll promptly die from some random thing. In only a few hours, I've fallen off a cliff, been poisoned to death, starved to death, and most likely cannibalized, but I can't confirm that because I don't know what they did with my body. Now, if you're looking for a survival title that's maybe a little bit kinder, we have Song in the Smoke. Once again, you'll be crafting materials, foraging for foods, and hunting animals. But the world of Song in the Smoke is a little bit more fantasy-oriented than what you get from Green Hell. Either way, you can't go wrong, and if you still need some more survival action, I recommend the VR mod for Subnautica Below Zero. This will take your survival experience to a whole new sci-fi level as you dive deep into the ocean of an alien planet. There's a lot to see and craft in this game, so you most likely won't want to miss it. Now, if you prefer constant death, we have the roguelite genre. Now, my favorite title remains Until You Fall, due to its fantastic combat mechanics, excellent graphics, and just absolutely addictive gameplay. It's a bit too physically intense to keep you playing for hours on end, but it's amazing to jump in for an hour or two, or if you're looking to break a sweat. If you prefer your roguelites to have a horror theme, then I definitely recommend In Death Unchained on the Oculus Quest. It can be brutally difficult and outright creepy at times, but it's also extremely rewarding and pretty damn addictive. Now, the persistence cranks the creepiness factor up to 11 and throws you into a derelict space station where the cloning machines have started churning out some grotesque monsters. There's plenty of risk versus reward in this title, increasing the overall anxiety even more, and it's just brutally violent, which is so much fun in VR. But if you want to tone things down and keep it cute, we have Yuki. Yuki is a bullet hell roguelite with multiple characters and power-ups to unlock. You're basically holding an action figure in your hand and flying through the sky battling tons of different creatures. The boss fights will have you memorizing combos and ducking and jumping out of the way. So depending on whatever style of roguelite you enjoy, VR has you covered. And another honorable mention is Mother Gunship VR, another roguelite that I put at the top of my wave shooter list. Now, if you are looking for an arena fighter, we have plenty of great options that all just come down to your personal preference. Gorn is filled with some very cartoony slapstick action, but still brutally violent. It's a lot of fun to smash the enemy's head clean off its body, and all the blood spewing out never gets old. But if you wanted something much more mature, I recommend Hellsplit Arena. Hellsplit takes place in a dark fantasy world where you're fighting an array of different creatures with multiple physics-based weapons, making it the only VR game I can think of where you can run down skeletons while on horseback. And finally, we have Swordsman VR, which is now available on all platforms. Swordsman VR stands in the middle of the previous two titles, as it's not quite as creepy as Hellsplit Arena, and definitely not cartoony like Gorn. There's a cool mini RPG system where you can level up certain stats, and a wide array of different class-based armor and weapons to choose from. They've also added some really cool DLC over time, like taking down a ship full of pirates. Now, if you'd rather take your melee combat online, we have some PvP fighting titles, starting with Swords of Gura. Now, I always recommend this title because there's nothing else quite like it. It's a really unique fighting system, and it allows for large-scale combat ranging from deathmatch, team deathmatch, and even capture the flag. Unfortunately, though, development on this title has stalled for quite some time. If you're looking to play, you'll most likely have to schedule a game on their Discord, and we're just waiting for this title to finally make its way onto the Quest 2. Now, if you want one-on-one combat, we have Iron Lights. Also featuring sword shattering, this game has some other unique mechanics. For starters, only one person can attack at a time. You decide when you'll move forward and engage the enemy, but you'll have to manage your stamina. So not only does this game rely on your melee skills, but also your resource management skills. Now, something similar is coming in the future, but looks to be much more focused on dueling, and that's Broken Edge. The art style and mechanics are looking excellent here, so I can't wait to try out this title. Now, if you just want some party games to play with your friends, VR has plenty of those also. First up is the extremely unique title Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes. One or multiple people will get a list of instructions and will play outside of VR, just feeding information to the VR user who's trying to explain what they see on the bomb itself. It usually devolves into people getting confused and yelling at each other, which is always a great time. Now, my personal favorite party game is Takeling's House Party, which allows up to 8 people to join in from their cell phones and take on the role of small creatures called Takelings, who are battling a human-sized opponent who's currently in the VR setup. It's an absolutely hilarious experience, and it's a VR title that deserves much more love. Now, there's 2 other titles that can be played in a similar manner. The first is A-Crown Attack of the Squirrels, where players once again join in from their cell phones and compete against the headset user who is taking on the role of a tree. And finally, Traffic Jam, which has the VR user attempting to direct traffic, but you could join in from your phone and make things much more complicated for them. Now, these are all asymmetrical titles that can be played in one house, but if you were looking for something that can be played online, Among Us VR is coming later this year, and it will be a fantastic opportunity to go around backstabbing your friends. Now, if betraying your friends is not exactly your style, and you just want to get engrossed in a real-time strategy game, I highly recommend Battle Group VR. Battle Group features a full single-player campaign, online multiplayer modes, and the ability to control a whole fleet of ships with a huge amount of customization that even goes down to the pilot's special abilities. On top of that, it has some amazing graphics, which allow you to experience the game from inside a cockpit or outside floating in the vastness of space. If you prefer to stay grounded, we have the tiny green Omni Man controlling title Final Assault. It's a rather simplistic RTS, which has you pushing characters down multiple lanes, and the victory really comes down to some micromanagement and properly placing your characters. But if you're looking for the most amount of variety in an RTS, you have to check out Guardians, which is like jumping into the world of Starship Troopers, and it's almost like an RTS tower defense hybrid. The developers have added tons of content over time, there's even controllable vehicles now, and there's just a surprising amount of different things you can do in this title. It's also co-op if you're not looking to compete against anyone else. But for the competitive among us who are looking for sports games, we have the undisputed champ Walkabout Mini Golf. Walkabout Mini Golf does an excellent job of simulating how much I suck at mini golf in real life, but now I get to do it on super extravagant courses with my friends from around the world. It's an amazingly chill experience, and even though I stink at it, I still really enjoy it. If you're a table tennis fan, then you most likely already own 11 table tennis, but that's another phenomenally well done simulation. It's just amazing at how realistic this game actually feels. Now, by the time this video releases, there's most likely a similar brand new title currently available called Bocce Time. So instead of table tennis or mini golf, you can join your friends for a game of bocce. And while we're on the topic of sims, we're really moving into a genre I'm not qualified to speak on. Now, this is a category that people insist that I add, but when it comes to simulation games, the closest I play is Star Wars Squadrons and Elite Dangerous. So if you ever wanted to experience what it's like to be a starfighter in the Star Wars universe, Star Wars Squadrons is an easy recommendation, or you want to jump into a complex, gigantic spacefaring world, well, look no further than Elite Dangerous. But if we're talking about more realistic sims, well, I'm at a loss. Now, the obvious recommendation is Microsoft Flight Simulator, which I know is definitely true to life, so that means people will either find it extremely boring or absolutely amazing. Now, a more action-oriented sim is War Thunder, which people always recommend to me, but I have extremely limited experience with this one, and all I basically know is it features some realistic World War I and World War II style aerial combat. I constantly hear that the VR mode is pretty broken or doesn't run well, but I can't actually verify that. Now, the one simulation title that I have spent multiple hours in and I do recommend is VTOL. For some it's a bit arcadey, but for me it was a perfect balance of true to life and just fun to play. Just getting your plane off the ground can be truly exciting, and then the action truly cranks up when you finally get into some firefights. So finally, let's round this video out with the genre I know the least about, and I'm gonna need your help here, guys. We're talking about racing games, and I just really don't play them. So in the comments, drop your favorite VR racing games right now, and I can tell you the only things I've really played is Dash Dash World, none of which are anything close to racing sims. I've heard Wipeout is quite good for PlayStation VR, and some PC VR titles that I hear thrown around quite often are Assetto Corsa, Project Cars 2, and Dirt Rally. I also know that F1 Racing is on the way, but for whatever reason, I've never felt inclined to play a VR racing title, and to be honest, I'm not a big fan of seated experiences, but I do plan to change this in the future. So go ahead in the comments right now, tell me the #1 racing game and simulation title that I just have to try. But for now, that was today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. And as always, I'll see you guys on next time.